willing and able to try to work for a good change, then hopefully we're entertaining you along the way.
Hello, I'm Bonnie Urbay. Welcome to the Contrary. Usually we offer a panel discussion of issues affecting women, families, and diverse communities, but today we have something very special and delicious for you, an interview with Amy Ziff of the rock band Betty. And I want to start out by asking you, you're now 30 years on into your career.
Can you believe it?
With a band that has really changed things a lot from my perspective in terms of women's rights, advancing women's rights in the music industry, which is very male dominated, and also feminism.
Wow.
So you tell me how you think what mark you've made there.
Wow, thanks for saying that. It's so fun to be back in DC. This is where Betty was born, actually. Myself and my sister and our best friend, and 30 years ago, so we've been doing it longer than you, haha. I don't know if that's crazy or good. I would love to think that we've had some influence on things that we care about, and that's really wonderful and very generous of you to say. All I know is that we came together as like-minded musicians and friends, and we tried to not only entertain people, but to stand for something that we believe in. And we've been really lucky to travel the world and I hope make some kind of an impact on disenfranchised communities or young women and girls and the LGBT communities, and maybe just to set some examples and to be supportive along the way.
That's 30 years is a long time to try to stay alive in the music industry, right?
You're kidding me, especially with your sister and your best friend. So we fight a lot, but there's a lot of love there too, and there's a lot of commitment to things. But basically, it's the music. It's the music that we still have things to say. We still have things to be fighting for. So that's basically what keeps us together. And these days, it seems that the job is going to be harder than ever. You know, we weren't expecting this kind of political climate again. We started in something pretty oppressive here in Washington, and then we moved to New York with our first television show. And just, getting off the train today, it seemed a little gloomier, a little bit more downtrodden in Washington. And I think all over the country it feels that way, basically.
Well, tell me, first, let's go back to your roots.
Okay.
How did the band start? Why did the band start?
Why did the band start? I was in New York. I came back to be with Elizabeth. She was having some issues, and we started making music together, which seemed very therapeutic. And then we thought we'd go a step further and do a band, and we auditioned some people. And then when Allison came into our lives, it seemed like it was kismet. And we've never really looked back. And we actually did like an autobiographical off-Broadway show about that, Betty Rules. We toured it here in Washington 3 times, and it seemed like here everybody got all the nuances and all the references, and it was a really nice coming home kind of situation.
Well, tell me, your first album, tell me about it. What's the music on it?
It's called
about?
Hello, Betty, and our music wasn't specifically political and really hasn't been. It's just more, I like to write about food and sex and things like that, and everybody has their own style about things, and then we come together and kind of, I guess it becomes like a mashup, with the 3 of our influences, but we write individually. This, we've started writing a little bit more politically. It seems like that there's more of an urgency now, but I think that's our latest CD that you have called On the Rocks, and there's some nice songs on that. And then subsequent to that, we've started writing some political things called Making a Difference and Rise, which is pretty anthemic of things that we've been doing all over the world.
Silence must stop, violence must end, broken body and spirit will rise again. Strength in numbers, take a stand, right the wrongs, don't ask a man. If one woman hurts, if one woman...
If you can't have music for your revolution, right, then how can you dance? So
Tell me about, I'm going to ask you about each of the songs.
Okay.
Sticky Rice. What's that about?
Sticky Rice is a food song, but it's also playful, and it's about passion.
Hungry people.
And some of our best moments, I think, as a band are some of the places that we've eaten all over the world, from down-home diners to really elegant places where usually people take us. But sticky rice is one of our favorite desserts in the world, and I think all three of us agree about that. So, isn't it yours? I mean, it's everybody's,
one
right?
of, certainly, yeah.
Well, we'll have to find some place to go after this. Hurry up, Bonnie.
So, Best Kind of Perfect.
I wrote that song about Christy Ambrosetti, who I married 2 years ago in the mountains of North Carolina, and Gloria Steinem officiated it. And that song is about how we met 7 years ago.
Kind of love, this kind of perfect, this kind of love.
So it's kind of corny, but kind of romantic. But I guess, can you be genuine and plaintive and still have an edge? I don't know, but I'm hoping so.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then Little Boy, B.O.I.
Right, Little Boy is a song that the lyrics I wrote, it's about a junior-senior relationship and the things that you can learn and teach by having someone younger or older that you're involved with. And then if you spell it B-O-I, then the possibilities are kind of endless, right?
I said, come here, little boy, lay right by my side. You're gonna feel like you're tripping, gonna feel like you're high.
And you can just mix it up however you want to mix it up and get passionate with whoever you want to get passionate with at any age.
Not too long ago, there was Emmanuel Macron
Voila.
was elected Prime Minister of France, and his wife is way older than he is. She's in her mid-60s, he's in his late 30s. And we also have a situation here where a president who's 70 and with a wife in her late 40s. So tell me about how your music addresses that issue.
Well, that specific song does, because it's kind of a play, and it's a play on the words and a play on the sensibilities. I'll be December, you be May. So it's playful, but it also does hopefully make a statement in that Vive la France, basically. Oui, mes amis en France, c'est parfait. Why can't we have those kind of relationships here and celebrate something that a woman might be older than a man, and kind of revel in those relationships, and a revel, I think, grasp the beautiful femininity that a woman has at every age and at any age. So, I mean, no comment, I guess, if a man has a younger girlfriend or wife. I think that's pretty accepted norm, and hopefully they're both in a relationship there's some kind of parity there, and but I celebrate it inversely.
Does it not make sense to you that it's fine for a man to be the older one? But at least in this country, anyway. I mean, the French don't care, as we talked about. But in this country, it's still looked at kind of cockeyed.
It's crazy. I mean, of course, a woman should be older. I mean, don't we get better as we age, and we have so much more to teach, and we live longer, and we're sexier, and we have so many more things to talk about, and we know the food that we like, and we know what we like. So I say that that's very refreshing.
There was an off-Broadway musical called Betty Rules, all about the group. Mm-hmm. How did that come about, and what was it about?
We were in New York, and Michael Greif, who is a very celebrated director, and at that point was just starting, kind of like we all were in our fields. And he asked us, he came up to us after a benefit. He heard a couple of songs, so we did the music for one of his productions of Cloud 9 up in the Berkshire Theater Festival. And subsequent to that, we of course stayed really great friends. And he said, why don't you write something for me, for a show about the band? So we wrote kind of a phantasmical, crazy spy thing. And when he got it, he called us and he said, no, write about what you really did and who you really are. So we didn't think it was going to be that interesting. But then when you think about it, for being girls in a band for over 30 years, and some of the adventures and some of the things we've faced, and together the death of our parents, abortions, protesting, making music, falling in love, Black and Jewish together, straight and gay together, political. There was a story to tell, and I think here in Washington people really appreciated it too because we brought it back here.
Feminists were criticized at least many years ago. I don't know if it's current anymore, but for lacking humor. And yet you guys are all about humor, right? Tell me about that.
I think anybody that would say that feminism is devoid of humor is just some other kind of crazy, trumped up misogyny that is a misogynistic kind of norm or an easy, facile thing to say. It's not true. If I think that some of the funniest people out in the world are women, and most of them are feminists because you have to be really smart to be funny. So I think that that's crazy to say or to think. I'll stamp it out on the ground. Good, you're laughing. Great, it was funny. Yay!
And recently there's been a resurgence of feminism, at least it seems, among young women. And a whole in response to the 2016 election, 11,000, according to Emily's list, young women out there running for office at all levels of government.
I hope so.
What is this? Has this been too long a time in coming, or do you think women right now are moving forwards or backwards?
Oh gosh, Bonnie, I hope we're moving forwards. But anybody that said that there has to be resurgence of feminism or feminism like kind of left or it was gone, I mean, you have to be a feminist, and feminism has to be at the forefront of everything because it's the only way that things are going to change and things are going to become good. When women have equal power and equal say and equal economic strength, that's the only way that this world is going to survive. I think, right? Yeah.
I'm not allowed to take a position.
Oh, you're not allowed to take a position. Okay. But, all right, well, I'll just put it out there, and then maybe it'll just bounce off the walls in K Street and say, yeah, okay. That's what I believe, and that's what most of, I think, thinking, caring people need to believe.
Mm-hmm. Now, your audiences, are they mainly women?
No, they're not. They vary. I mean, when we first started, I think that we had a very large gay male crowd here in Washington. And then we did a lot of things for NPR. We were the commentators for the holiday commentators. So we got that kind of crowd. And then...
and HBO, tell me about, you did a lot with HBO and television. Tell me about...
Well, we got our first television show. It was for kids. It was called Encyclopedia. So that made us move to New York. So we packed up our little trunk and headed to New York, the big city, and we got our first television show. We performed on air and wrote all these different songs for Encyclopedia. And
that was teaching kids about vocabulary,
right? Teaching them definitions in a kind of a subversive way. It was the same year as Pee-wee's Playhouse. So I would like to think that there were really crazy things on television at that time for kids.
Now, tell me about some of the lyrics that were subversive.
Well, we taught them, let me think, it was also the way we looked and the way we performed, and what we talked about ladybugs, and one song that we wrote for them was about a ladybug being very indignant to a farmer's daughter. And finally, the ladybug looks up and says, and my name is Harold, so why, was I called a ladybug in the first place? So the farmer's daughter is a little bit perplexed. Just, think little twisty-turny things so that you're learning a little bit about definitions of a word, but you're also kind of maybe, hopefully, thinking twice about something that you might not have thought twice about before. Mm-hmm. Some of those songs still stay in our musical vocabulary that we bring out in shows sometimes. Mm-hmm. And people stop us and say that they grew up with Encyclopedia and then they graduated to some of the other perverted things that we've done since then, or perverse or fun, or however you want to look at it, I guess. We went from actually Encyclopedia to Real Sex and did one of the theme songs for that, and that was also on HBO. And then other things, and then the L Word. A lot of people know us from the music that we did for the L Word too.
And that was a show on HBO?
Showtime, yeah.
On Showtime,
right.
Okay.
So
Right.
there've been we've been lucky to do a lot of different television shows. Since we're an independent band, we had our music placed in lots of different things, in movies and in television and art projects. Like in the Smithsonian right now, there's a great piece that we did the soundscape for. So I think you have to be a little bit of, a Renaissance person if you're in the music business, and if you want to last for a while and get your hands in lots of different things artistically.
And how does it work when you play overseas?
Great. It depends where we're playing, but it's usually a younger audience that knows us from maybe the L Word or from other things that we've done over there. And we just came back from a festival called the L Beach Festival, which was 5,000 girls from up north and Northern Europe, and that was really fun. And we're going back later, and we're actually putting on a music festival in Tel Aviv in October called Women for a Change. We're very excited about that. That's going to be great.
Who are the musicians? Are you having?
We're talking to a couple of different people, some big acts and some smaller acts, and some joining forces with people, and we're going to bring people with us, maybe to change the narrative a little bit about what people think. And
in what way? Tell me about that.
Well, there's been some distressing things that we've heard, that I've heard in particular, about that feminism you can't be a feminist and a Zionist at the same time. And I know there are a lot of problems over in Israel for sure, just like any country, but I don't think you preclude anybody or denigrate somebody for an affiliation that they might have with a country and say that they can't be part of the bigger picture as a feminist. I think that was a very inflammatory and crazy thing to say. So I think at this point in the world, you have to join forces and find the commonality and the good and the universal kind of feelings that we all have for movements forward, instead of dissecting and pitting people against each other.
I'm just curious, are you in the rock festival you're putting together there, will there be Muslim women
Of course.
bands?
Yeah, of course. Israeli Arabs and hopefully Palestinian too, if they would want to, and joining forces. And I think it would be great if women are at the forefront of things. Women can change things and get a bigger dialogue and have a bigger impact in the world. We all know that.
And you also were doing some touring for the State Department. Tell me about that.
We, very curious, Bonnie. Thank you for being so curious so I can talk. But anyway, we did a lot. We've been doing some amazing work for the State Department. Amazing work that I think a lot of us don't even know is out there, the resources that were there. And that's another story. But we were able to travel through South America, through Eastern Europe, through India, through Mexico, outreach programs to disenfranchised people, communities, women and girls, LGBT communities. And some of the work that we were able to do was actually life-changing for all of us. I'm sorry to say, and very afraid that funding is now going to go away. So involving different communities together and reaching out as Americans and music makers, and for these people to find a voice through change and empowerment is going to be much harder. So we'll have to do it in the private sector.
Do you think your presence in those countries empowered women and girls there? Tell me about the impact.
Yeah, well, I would hope so. I know that the work that we did in India, we were able to work with some kids who had been sex trafficked, and we did a workshop about finding your voice, and then they performed with us after the workshop was finished, after 3 days, and they performed the song Rise with us, and with a toddler performer. It was life-changing. It was beautiful, really. And I think most musicians I know, dream of being able to have some kind of influence or make some kind of impact with children or with young women, and communities that feel like they are less empowered, that they don't have a voice, that they want to be proud about who they are and what they could stand for. And I think if you have people that maybe come in and facilitate that, it's an amazing thing to be able to do.
Now, you have, we talked a little bit about one of your more recent CDs, but tell me about the evolution that your music is undergoing in your latest CD.
I think after everybody got out of bed after the election and kind of resurrected to a certain amount of, life, that people started trying to do things positively. And a lot of things that we're doing are I mean, we're musicians, so we're writing songs, and we're trying to do as much good as possible by getting out there and helping people, find their voice and be strong. So a recent song of ours is "Make a Difference." If I say nothing, if I do nothing, close my eyes, pretend to see nothing, nothing's going to change, nothing's going to break, nothing's going to give, nothing's going to make a difference.
Everyone I know, all of it is gone, and I should have made a difference. Someone's gotta make a difference. Could have made a difference. Someone's gotta make a difference. I should have made a difference.
Taking the negative part, doubling it so it becomes a double negative, which becomes a positive, and then moving forward. I know it sounds maybe kind of trite to say, but we do have to be making a difference these days. Otherwise, our rights are going to erode.
Well, from a political perspective, from
Right.
where I sit, there's a Republican Congress in control.
Right.
Most experts are saying that President Trump is not going to get impeached, certainly not anytime
Right.
soon. So what else can your followers do? What are you enticing them and entreating them to try to do to change things?
Well, I don't know if we're enticing people to change things, but if you are willing and able to try to work for a good change, then hopefully we're entertaining you along the way so that you can keep your morale up and that you can hear a song that might inspire you, or you can have people that are marching with you. Or I think you need inspiration. I think that's one of the great things about art, is that in the moments where you feel bleak and things seem despairing, if you listen to a song, or you see a beautiful painting, or you read a poem, or you have a way to dance or something, it maybe propels you forward a little bit. And I think that every artist has a very big responsibility now in our country to make sure that people are motivated and entertained and inspired to do the work that we need to do to move this country forward, as opposed to being a backward kind of motion that I feel like is happening now, giving away our rights and making this country go back to the dark ages.
Now, do you guys have had some incredible gigs. I mean, to have an off-Broadway play produced about
Yeah.
you, and to do all the work you've done on TV, etc. But do you find the music industry to be welcoming to women?
You ask really good questions, Bonnie. Have people told you that before?
No, but
Okay.
thank you.
No, you're welcome. Can we go eat after this, by the way? Is the music industry. I think once you've been in something for a really long time, you lose perspective. And we've had so many different experiences over the length of our career about making it, or not making it, or longevity, or is that bad? You can't say that you've been doing this for a really long time because that works against you. And then after a certain point, you're proud to say that you've been doing this for a really long time because people are kind of amazed.
You could be my Jerusalem. You could be my Jerusalem. Helping me believe again. Ooh. Teaching me to dream again. Ooh. You could be.
I think we've been kind of under the radar sometimes, or aside from the main radar, like pop musicians. So I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about it, but
Have you talked to some of the big female
Sure.
names in the music industry, and what are their experiences?
Their experience, we have some friends that are very, very successful. I guess success is relative, but as far as, if you're talking about money or exposure, things like that. And they say that as long as they're authentic, and some of our friends who, if there's an authenticity and a perseverance, that the other stuff they can usually throw away. So I think that everybody's experience is very unique. I think most women have had some, crazy stories along the way. But if you've been lucky to have people that have been by your side and to fight with you and to kind of believe you along the way too, and believe in you, then I think that you've been very lucky.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, that is just fabulous. And thank you so much for your time and for your work.
Oh.
That's it for this edition. Please follow me on Twitter at Bonnie Urbay and at To The Contrary. And please visit our PBS website, which is pbs.org/To The Contrary. And whether you agree or think to the contrary, please join us next week.